Hello book people, PT here. Let's talk about Sandman World's End. To get this out of the way first, I'm very biased about this collection because this was actually the first collection that I read of Sandman back in the day, and I really I had no idea what was going on and no idea about what the Endless were, who Morpheus was, any of that. But I was still able to dive into this story, and it carried me away in an amazing way. And I was actually a little nervous to come back to it because I hadn't read it, in 10 years or something, potentially more. And especially my favorite issue. I have my favorite issue in all of Sandman is in this. I'll tell you about what that is in a second, but I was very nervous to read it because what if it didn't hold up to my expectations? And I'll just say that it did. It definitely held up and brought a little tear to my eye and everything when I read it. So basically, World's End is the story of, definitely a takeoff on Canterbury Tales, Chaucer's story, where in this version we have two people who are driving across country, and even though it's summer, they get caught in this weird snowstorm and end up going to this inn called the World's End, meeting with people from all different times, places, worlds, mythologies, all this different stuff. And these people are all caught there but in this reality storm thing, crazy storm, and they are spending their time telling stories and eating and drinking, and that's part of what I love about this, is that just is like a great fantasy scenario for me, being like just trapped in this inn with all these really interesting people where I can just eat and drink and tell and hear amazing stories, and when I get tired I can go to sleep, and when I wake up it's still going to be waiting for me to go hear some more amazing stories. So that's what I love about this. I'm not going to go through all the different stories, but I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. For instance, one of my favorites is the dream about the city. I think that's the first one, where the person's in the city's dream, and there's that whole idea that the city could wake up. It's almost that one reminds me a little bit of the Dream of the Thousand Cats. But I want to jump to my favorite issue of Sandman, which is drumroll, Golden Boy, the issue about Prez, the teenage president. Boy, and I'm not sure I'm going to try and articulate what I love about this so much, but it's a number of things, really. It's this stupid character from the 1970s DC Comics, Prez, who is this hippie teenage president. Basically the story is that America lowered the voting age to 18, and quickly a teenage president was elected, and it was this guy named Prez Ricard. It's kind of like every old person in the 1970s nightmare, right? The kids are gonna take over. But he is just this really idealistic, ridiculously so idealistic guy, and all the terrible stuff that happens to him, he never loses his idealism, and that's what is very touching to me. And then there's just so many bizarre and weird elements to it, like Mr. Smiley, which is the weird kind of overlord of that world, and you find out at the end kind of the god of that world almost. I don't know what it all means with Mr. Smiley, but I thought it's fascinating that I guess it's the combination of the way that the story is told, almost like a fairy tale or a legend, whatever, and that combination of that with the American political system mixed with this really ridiculously idealistic person. I'm always a sucker for really idealistic people who don't give up their idealism even in the most extreme circumstances. So all those together kind of fit to make an amazing story for me. I'm so impressed with how Neil Gaiman can take this character that's kind of ridiculous and make just such an important, to me at least, story. And it's hard to say, it's hard to convey how important this story is to me in my life, and I don't really know why, but I was thinking about all the parts with Prez fixing the watches and everything and the clocks, which I had completely forgotten about, and at the end he gives Sandman his the pocket watch, which we saw earlier in, I think, Season of Mists, that Sandman has a treasure chest with some of his prized possessions, and that pocket watch was in there. But anyway, I kind of wonder, my trilogy of novels, Regulation 19 and its sequels feature a pocket watch very prominently, and I wonder if that subconsciously that was influenced by this story. Neil Gaiman, by the way, says that his idea for this was he had just moved to the United States from the UK, and it was right around the time that Bill Clinton was elected president, and he was just shocked by how optimistic all his friends were, all his Democratic friends were about Bill Clinton, and how Bill Clinton was just going to come in and fix everything and make the United States this ideal wonderland kind of place, and that didn't didn't necessarily happen exactly like they had hoped, obviously, but kind of got his wheels spinning about, boy, what if there really was a president like that who could come in and like just fix everything. And then he got the idea of telling that story as if it were like one of the gospels about Jesus, telling it in that kind of a style. And that's where he came up with this idea, and it really does feel like that. You can tell like the love that goes into that. There's one line in particular that I don't know, it really kind of brings a tear to my eye for some reason, and I'm not even sure why, but it's after Prez, spoilers, Prez says his died, and the whole nation kind of knows that he died, but no one, like, there's been no announcement or everything. Everyone can just feel it that he's dead, and everyone's wearing black armbands. Whenever anybody asks them who they're wearing the black armband for, they say for Prez, and everyone knows exactly what they mean. Oh, that's a great panel that always just kind of brings a little tear to my eye. I'm not sure why, but anyway, this is a great story. I haven't read any more of Prez. I know that Ed Brubaker wrote a Prez miniseries, I think, for Vertigo. I believe it was actually his first work for DC or Marvel, was this Prez miniseries he wrote, which I think is called Prez Smells Like Teen President or something like that, something ridiculous. And then I think there was another series after that, but I don't know who wrote that. But I do want to track those down because, well, I don't know, I can't decide because this story is so perfect to me. I'm not sure if I want to read any more about Prez. Anyway, that was 5 minutes of me gushing about the issue Prez. Let's talk about the other really interesting thing in this. Well, there's a bunch of interesting things, but the other thing that I think really needs to be talked about, which is the ending, which when they find out what this reality storm is, they kind of look out their windows and see this big procession, seems to be some kind of funeral procession or something, and all these characters that we've seen before are marching in this procession. We don't know whose funeral it is or anything like that, but there's someone important enough that it caused this reality storm that kind of brought these people to this inn. So that's a very interesting choice because obviously we don't know what that is yet. We're going to find out more about that in the next installment, the Kindly Ones. But interesting choice to kind of reveal that, cast a very ominous pallor over the next 2 volumes. So that's World's End. The other thing I guess worth mentioning that I just want to quickly throw out there is Hob. I really loved the story that I can't remember the name of with Hob and the girl who becomes a sailor and disguised herself as a boy. That was a great story, and I'm really finding in this read through of Sandman that I'm connecting with Hob a lot more than I did before. And yeah, I really like Hob a lot, and I liked that story. So that's World's End. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And if you want to, crush my heart and say you hate Prez, I guess I'll deal with that. But the other interesting thing I think to talk about is the gender roles here. Like they actually address that right in the story. That there's none of these stories, and maybe I'm totally sexist for liking this volume so much, but none of these stories have much to do with women. The women in the stories are kind of cast in like less than important roles for the most part and things like that. They talk about that and address that a little bit in this, so that's kind of interesting. I know I've talked about before how the stories kind of alternate from volume to volume in this, from a male to a female perspective. The next one, the Kindly Ones, is definitely a more female driven book. But anyway, that'll do it for me. I'll be back in just a few days. I think, well, next Saturday I think is when I'm going to post it, with the Kindly Ones. So that'll do it. Thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.